For each episode of the Chamber podcast, I'm going to sit down with the past president and basically ask them lots of questions. I'm really delighted to have Tim Allan here. He's kind of a personal favourite of mine. And he was the Chamber President from 2014 to 2016. And then he was with Scottish Chambers from 2017 to 2022. Had to think about the intro because I once introduced Honor McGregor and she said that the introduction was as important as the interview. So here we are. Tim is a former army officer and a private equity and property entrepreneur with an exceptional track record across businesses, investments and philanthropy. He is the founder of the Unicorn Property Group and a key force behind the transformation of Dundee's waterfront, including the building that we're in now. He is a co-founder and director of Motor Fuel Group, UK's largest independent fuel retailer with a turnover of over 7 billion and more than 1,300 sites. Alongside his building success, Tim has made a significant impact with leadership and service, serving as both president of Dundee and Angus Chamber, the Scottish Chamber of Commerce, and more recently at the University Court of St Andrews, where he chairs the university fundraising campaign and the business school. Busy guy. He is the chair of the DNA in Dundee, a massive supporter of Scottish charities and institutions, and an active investor in early stage tech. Tim is a fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh and was recognised with a CBE for services both to business, charity and the arts in 2022. So Tim Allan.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Sounds like a great guy.
He's okay actually, quite nice. So you were president for 2 years here, and I think that was when it was first starting the chamber.
No, chamber had been going for a while. Of course, it had been through some difficult times, and I was asked if I would join the board, and then they made me president in 2014 within weeks, because there hadn't been a president. And there was this period where we had 2 vice presidents and no president because of challenges the chamber had faced, like any business did, particularly post the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009. So my job was to join a chamber which was looking for its role and function to be better defined.
What was the most standout thing about that?
Well, it was a hell of a time because 2014 we had the independence referendum, and then we had general elections. We had Cameron's ill-fated election and then referendum. And so this was the end of the coalition government, the Scottish independence referendum, the Brexit referendum, and all the fallout from that. It was an extremely disturbing time for business.
Do you think you were quite thankful, though, to be involved in the local business community at the time?
Of course it is. Yeah. It's a Chinese curse to may you live in interesting times, but these were interesting times, and they are interesting now. There are a number of parallels in that. And many of the problems that we face as a country now were rooted in that period.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I think a lot of the division and a lot of the issues that we're having now are kind of come from that. And it's a bit of rubbish, actually. What do you think, in terms of the chamber, what do you think makes it stand out as an organisation in the region?
Well, I think that's, you got to go back to that period. And I was lucky enough to, after Dundee and Angus Chamber, to join the board at Scottish Chambers of Commerce. And then I became president there as I joined that, and then had that period of leading role there throughout the post-Brexit period and COVID, and the great fragmentation of UK politics during that time. And from that, the great stresses put on the business community. So what stands out from that whole period, from 14 to 22, was how desperately important it was for business to coalesce within the chamber network to give us some scale to influence the policymakers who were making free with the economic and political landscape in this country.
So how important do you think it is that business has a voice?
I think it's one of the things that we have allowed to happen in business is that we have allowed political voices to dominate policy making uh, and diminish the voice of business per se. Business is it's a catch-all expression used to describe private enterprise amongst a whole range of different folk. Anybody from a convenience store, a news agent, to a nail bar, to a bank or a major insurance business. So everyone's got different agendas. The fundamental thing is you have people in private enterprise trying to create wealth, to create successful companies which serve both themselves as shareholders, but to do that, you have to serve your customers and your clients, and that will hopefully generate a profit for you. Now, this concept of the profit-driven activity, which is the source of all business,
Yep.
seems to fall out of favour with our policymakers who have become detached from that, who see business as nothing more than another target for taxation, rather than something to be grown and invested in by that taxation that they're withdrawing from them. So we have business has kind of abandoned that field to professional politicians whose job it is to get re-elected and who don't make decisions necessarily based on what's in the interests of the country, but more in the narrow interests of their own political careers.
What's your future vision for Dundee and Angus in terms of the business community? And obviously, you're a massive part of that with even the V&A.
Yeah, I mean, so Dundee and Angus is an extremely exciting part of the world. I think it's more exciting when taken into the whole Tay regional concept.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got to look wider rather than less parochial. We've got to look at the asset-based approach to what our region offers. And if you look at the Tayside, Dundee and Angus region, we've got some major areas of strength, whether it's traditionally in education, through tertiary education, through higher education, further education, through hospitality and leisure, tourism. We are an absolute centre for that in Scotland. And of course, in the city of Dundee itself, a great technology and scientific base to it. But what all that depends on is governmental support, is policy support to enable these. And we face intractable problems in all those sectors. So therefore, the Chamber and all business lobby organisations need to be looking at what our region's good at, and then seeking to lobby to reinforce that success further.
I think you and I have spoken before about the sort of wider geographical area, about how St Andrews seems so far away. But if you lived in London or even Glasgow, it's half an hour. It's not. It's almost like the bridge becomes a divide.
Yeah.
And all of that tourism and all of the sort of talent that comes in that way, it's like, how can we share that a little bit more?
Well, I think that's what Dundee and Angus can't treat itself as some kind of parochial area. We have to accept that we have to recognise that we are only 45 minutes an hour from Edinburgh Airport.
We're 90 minutes to 90% of the population.
It's looking extraordinary, isn't it? So if you go to LA or you go to London, I mean, 45 minutes is like a short commute.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't get hung up on the fact that we're a region. We're actually part of a very vibrant, could be part of a very vibrant Scottish economy. And therefore, our communication links are no worse than anybody else's. So that shouldn't be an inhibitor. Yeah. In fact, we should be able to promote ourselves as an area of strength within the country because it's an attractive place to go to work.
I think so. I think talent staying in the city is a major thing, and we need to work out how we keep it and keep them coming into the city. And whether they live elsewhere or not, it's not that far to go.
Well, that's an important point. Is do we have sufficient housing stock to attract people to live in the city? I would argue that we don't. And building houses in Scotland today is extremely expensive, difficult, a marginal business, as we've seen in this country, over the last 10, 15 years. the demise of some great housing brands.
Yeah.
Stuart Mill, Miller, Calla, all gone. And that whole generation of small builders have gone. Why? Because the regulation now and the time taken and the delays taken in getting planning consents through and the obligation places on builders is crushing the home building industry. So Dundee's no different from, and Dundee and Angus are no different from any other part of the country, is it's very difficult to build homes profitably. So that's why the whole area has been dominated by affordable homes and housing associations, because only they can afford to get it done. And this is going to inhibit the stock for people to live in the city. And this is a problem the whole country faces, but this is a policy issue. Heavy lifting by politicians needs to be done, and I don't think it's been done.
So, what is the best or worst piece of advice that you followed?
Well, the best piece of advice that I've followed was from Sir Tom Hunter. He said, if you want to make it in Scotland, you've got to give to Scotland. And I took that to heart and got involved with Young Enterprise Scotland way back in the day, 2002, 2003, when Tom first gave me that advice. And he was right. The most pleasure you get actually in life is from giving back. And the most important thing, one of the common things about Scottish entrepreneurs is a desire to give back to the country because we love it and we want it to thrive. That sense of common purpose is so very important. So the best bit of advice was, go all in and, give back to your country when you can. Now, whether that means investing in Scottish startup companies or whether it means in supporting third sector organisations or charities, it doesn't matter. Get stuck in, stay in there.
Are you still involved with the Youth Enterprise?
Young Enterprise Scotland, no. I was chair of that and left it in 2010, I think it was.
Okay.
So I was working here in Dundee. But we revolutionised Young Enterprise Scotland in those days, turned it away from just being a schools competition to actually being a force for good in the third sector as well, reaching out to the hardest to reach young people in prison and in care. And that was a really extraordinary success during that time.
Is the V&A your main way of giving back now, or?
No, my wife and I got a wide range of things to give back to. V&A is very, very, very close to my heart. I think it is an extraordinary catalyst for change in this region. I think it is one of the things that the city can be proudest of over the last century, is the creation of Scotland's great design museum, which is really now starting to hit its stride under Leonie Bell's leadership. It's extraordinary. But I'm also, University of St Andrews, which gave me so much, is very, very close to my heart. And I'm very proud to lead the fundraising campaign there to create, the first new college in 3 centuries.
And this is the old Madras building?
The old Madras site, yeah. And amongst other things in the campaign. But we're raising 300 million, so it's a big old job. So, and then my wife and I support lots of different charities. And one I think is very close to my wife's heart is we pay for the National Trust for Scotland's Seabird programme across the country, because it's not an area of my expertise, but the tragedy of the state of our wildlife and our seabirds is writ large to see. And it's very nice to be able to have an impact in research and protection of wildlife.
Amazing. I hope one day I'll be able to do all this sort of thing. What is a completely useless skill that you're secretly proud of?
I don't know if it's a useless skill, but it's an affliction. Is that I remember things, useless things.
Okay.
So I'm a great Trivial Pursuit player, but I'm never allowed to play it because I remember stuff. When I was a kid, my father was the headmaster of our school in Aberdeen, so once I'd done my homework, I had to sit around the school library waiting for Dad to finish. So I used to just read books.
Okay.
I read lots of stuff. I remember it. It wasn't worthy like reading Dickens from cover to cover. It was reference books. It was stuff, anything, films, geology, stuff. And people keep saying to me, how do you know that? I said, well, I read it once, so I just remember it. So it's a bit like that guy in Game of Thrones. I drink and I know things, and that's how I learn my skill.
What's the best book you've ever read?
Well, now that is a good question from left field. Of course, like all suitable geeks, I fell in love with Lord of the Rings when I was at university, but that's a cliche. So I would say that my favourite book, which I've reread a number of times, is Brideshead Revisited by Ethan Waugh, who was my favourite author as a kid.
Do you still read that now?
Yeah.
Love that.
And actually, if you ever want a good laugh, read the early comedies of Ethan Waugh, starting with his book Decline and Fall, which are just extraordinarily laugh out loud funny.
Have a look at that. Okay, and final question. What's the one habit that's made the biggest difference to your work life? And if you say getting up at 5 a.m,
Lists.
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 Are you a pen and paper?
I am a pen and paper. I'm a Filofax guy, because it doesn't go down, doesn't run out of power, and it's always say you just scribble something in it.
Tell me you're from the 80s without telling me you're from the 80s.
I'm 80s, and I also wear red braces. Lists. And I think that ties into actually the best, my motto, best advice in business is problems are like bundles of sticks. Now, if you take a bundle of sticks, you can't break them. So all you can do is break one stick at a time. If you pick apart your problems to break one stick at a time, pretty quickly you're starting to break your sticks. And that's how to manage your business. Is if you look at it all in the round, particularly in the times you live at the moment, it can feel desperate. So find something you can fix and fix it, and then move on to the next thing. Don't stop. Just keep grinding through the problems one at a time. Solve them all. Ask of each problem, what is it in itself? And then break it and move on to the next one. I find that lists help me clear my mind. And of course, I have a big list for jobs that need to be done in life. And then I have a daily list, the extraction of that list, saying, what do I need to do today to have made today a success?
And is there like 5 things go on that, 3 things, or is it just whatever the priority?
On the daily list, actually, you're doing well if you can get 5 things done.
Okay.
But and it could be anything. It could be like an intractable problem about your bank account that you've been avoiding. Just get it done, and then feel the energy released by solving these problems. It goes back to your business problems. When you've got a bundle of problems to face in this bunch of sticks, each one you break releases energy to go on to the next thing.
See, I think of it like childbirth. Every contraction is closer to the best thing ever. So every pain point is like, I'm just going to breathe through it. It's going to breathe through it.
That is a brilliant
thing. And then I think there's going to be something beautiful at the end. There'll be a lot of screaming, crying, and a lot of drama, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
That is a brilliant analogy. It is only 50% of the population can adhere to that.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right.
It is pain for the end result. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I always find you really interesting. Like not like a monkey in a zoo or anything. Just interesting.
Although that is true. Yeah.
I think like the way that your sort of dedication and leadership always, whenever I speak to you, I always think I could do that. I should try that. And I think that's what's amazing about things like this. It's a way to kind of get that information from people when you're not in that room.
Well, I mean, it's extraordinary to be here because one thing I absolutely know about myself is I have no particular skills. I'm not particularly talented, and anybody can do it. It's just going to have the confidence and the mindset to do it. I'm not talented at all.
I would disagree. I think you're a very strong leader and a very good visionary.
Oh God, you're so good, Kelly. So are you.
I just a car crash. So 7 reflection, obviously, it's amazing. It reminds us that strong leadership, vision, and just seeing the way is really important. And thank you. And thank you for being the first person to come on and at short notice as well.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.